First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
Bob Scholefield is with MVHS. Of course, he's been really accessible to us through the entire process of the hospital downtown and the progress. And, of course, if you've seen the photos, Andrew, it's up on our website, right?
WIBX950.com.
It's a photo gallery that included our tour, walking through the construction site and seeing everything. So if you have any questions about what's going on down there, 315-736-0186. And Bob is on with us right now. Bob Scholefield, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. So just in a nutshell, if you could, talk about the progress and what's going on at this stage of the game for the new hospital.
Well, at this particular point, as you can probably see as you drive by the location, we have steel up to the 9th floor. We have the first 2 floor podium panels. In other words, the process for enclosing the first 2 floors has started. You will see some red and white material on the building, which essentially is the vapor barrier. And we are actually having an awful lot of work on the inside of the building and doing fireproofing and getting the utilities into the first floor, plumbing, electricity. That will start working its way up to the top of the building over the course of the next number of weeks. And it's starting to take shape in there.
It really is. It was. I'm really impressed by, and this would be, a commonplace, obvious for anybody that's associated with construction, but just the way, the design, the pre-planning, everything has to be done so carefully because you have so many people on one work site.
Well, you're right. This project seems like it's been going on forever. But it took a good 2.5 years just to plan, design, and make sure all the engineering was planned out thoroughly. So when it was time to start the progress, that we were able to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But we've got a lot of people working here. We got electrical people, plumbing people, structural folks. We got concrete workers here every day. And first thing this morning before 7 o'clock, the men trucks started rolling in, pouring concrete.
Pouring concrete this morning. I thought it was interesting when we walked through the ground floor. Already you have, and this is still early stages of construction. You still have steel going up in parts, but the place, all you could see was this conduit coming up out of the ground, and it would be electric, it would be plumbing. I saw one of the pipes coming up said sink. It's incredible. That type of planning, that stuff is already done before there's a floor, right?
Well, yeah, that's right.
Has to be.
You pour the concrete after. You make sure you have all your plumbing lines in where they're supposed to be, all the gas lines, electrical lines. And as you saw when you walked through, there are literally hundreds of white plastic conduit pipes coming up out of the ground that will designate where all the different sinks, toilets, and other utilities throughout the first floor.
Yeah. Andrew, I'm going to put Bob on hold for a second. If you could just check, maybe on speaker would be a little more helpful because I'm having a tough time.
Piece that's
is there a
being
piece?
Muffled by maybe a shirt collar or
Got
something.
It. Okay, all right. Either way, Jeff, I got to tell you, and you weren't a part of this walkthrough, but it was just it's so large, and there will come a time when we're actually walking through that place. But it's something that we had talked about from the very beginning, and Bob, you really educated us on this a long time ago, and that is the flow, the workflow, how whether it be at St. E's or at St. Luke's, and now with the merged hospitals, some things are done at St. E's, some things are done at St. Luke's, but even within the individual hospitals, getting from point A to point B, especially from the emergency room going forward, the flow wasn't there. And we've heard stories of people not being able to fit on the elevator and having to run up a couple of flights of stairs to be able to perform surgery on somebody.
Yeah, so much had to be done in the design of the new facility to make sure it optimizes the workflow for our employees, but also more importantly for the patients.
Yeah.
You can be transported from one of our emergency departments now to a radiology or some other testing location, and you'll be transported right through a common corridor. So you might be going through people on their way to the cafeteria or someone on their way to work. And then, the elevator situations in the current hospitals, we don't have as many as we'd like. They're not as big as they should be. And you may have to find yourself getting on an elevator with employees or patients getting on elevators with other visitors, which just really isn't the best scenario for our patients.
Yeah.
Have there been things that have changed from the initial plan because of the pandemic, whether it's the volume of people you've had to have in the intensive care or different things? Have plans been altered because of that?
Well, we haven't altered the design of the hospital at all, but we are giving some second thought to a few ways of how we'll handle common area spaces. For example, we have a very large cafeteria in this new facility, and I'm not sure that we'll have as many people in that cafeteria in the future as we had originally planned. So we got a little time to make the final determination of how that all is going to pan out, but we will have to take a look at conference room spaces, cafeterias, other common spaces to see how we furnish them or how we arrange furnishing in there in order to make sure we keep people safe.
And what about and I know we've talked about this on the air, but just to reiterate, because people have been asking, as the picture was floating around on social media, it looked like a walkway was going over to the City Hall garage, which is a parking garage under City Hall. That's not really, that isn't not really the case. It's not the case, right? It's to a building that's really going to feed the hospital.
Right. There's a walkway that goes from the hospital over to the building across Columbia Street that we own, which used to be the Mohawk Medical Equipment Building. So in that other building across Columbia Street, we'll house some of our departments. There'll be no patient care in that building, so no patients will go across the walkway. But that walkway will be exclusively for the use of our employees going between the hospital and that building. Our supplies will be kept in there. We'll have computer equipment over in that building. So that's a way of getting things across. But also, probably more importantly, many of the utilities that feed the building will go through that walkway as well. So that will not be a public walkway to go from the hospital to to the Kennedy parking garage.
All right. And then I was really I was impressed at the experience that is being planned for the customer, and the customer would be people that are utilizing the hospital, whether you're being in there and being treated, or you're having a stay, or you're visiting someone. It's all about that experience, making it so much of a better experience than we currently have and are used to here.
Well, I have to assume back in 1914 when they were designing St. Elizabeth, there was far less interest in developing a hospital that met customer satisfaction requirements, if you want to call it that. It was, solely concerned about housing people that were ill. Now it's more than that. We need to make sure that the building provides outstanding environment for patient care, but also for the 2,000 employees and physicians and volunteers that work in the building. We want to make sure that it is an efficient, comfortable place for them to provide care. And then visitors, hoping we get to a point where we can allow more visitors into the hospital to make it easy for them to find their way through the facility, to make sure that it's comfortable while they're there, and make it as welcoming as possible.
Yeah. And then the garage. Can you tell us anything on where we stand with the garage?
At this particular point, the garage is in the hands of the county and the city. I know that they're actively working on finalizing plans and arrangements for that. I'm just as anxious to find the answers to that as you are, I'm sure.
But I one thing I can ask you about is the importance of the garage for the hospital, because you've heard certain political people saying this garage is being built for the Comets. It's not for the hospital, and the hospital doesn't need a garage.
Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. Once this facility is built, we will have a significant number of employees, physicians, patients, families, and others coming to the campus. We did a significant number of parking studies. We've had 2 outside companies do those studies, and we did our own internally. We know exactly how many people per hour come onto the campus, or we anticipate coming onto campus. Our certificate of need with the state health department was inclusive of the parking requirements, which included the spaces in the proposed parking garage. So, yeah, that parking garage, although has some public benefits for the city and the county as well, but a good portion of that garage is necessary for MVHS to provide spaces for its employees.
And I got to tell you, just as somebody who left the hospital, and I wasn't feeling like I could jog around. That's for darn sure. I had pain, and as I left, I was at St. E's. My wife was able to drive right up to the door in a garage. It was in the middle of the winter. So much more convenient. And then if you look over at the way it works, bringing everybody outside down into the lobby over at St. Luke's, this just completely, it is all about the experience, not just for the people visiting, but for the patient themselves, I think.
Right. It is the case with most businesses. The first impression you have often is when you arrive on the campus, you park and find your way into the building. And if we don't have the ability for people to park, they're looking for parking 4 or 5 blocks away. That doesn't leave for a first impression. But more importantly, the majority of the people who we serve and those that visit them tend to be older.
Right.
And do we really want the older population to have to walk 3 blocks to find their way into the hospital?
Yep.
Especially in the middle of January.
Right. Okay, Bob, we appreciate the tour. The video will go up later today. The photo gallery is up there right now that Andrew took. So check that out at WIBX950.com. Bob, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being accessible.
And thank you, too.
All right. Bob Scholefield at MVHS.
This podcast is sponsored by Cloud Optimizer.
As a business owner or IT manager, are your cloud investment costs going up and you don't know why? It's time for Cloud Optimizer. As you migrate your business to the cloud, what you're spending and why you're spending it can get a little hazy. But Cloud Optimizer clears up the mystery and puts the cloud to work for you. Cloud Optimizer starts by analyzing usage patterns, right-sizing resources, leveraging discounts you may not be aware of, implementing automation, and much more. And by reducing unnecessary expenses and maximizing performance, Cloud Optimizer guarantees you a savings of 5 times what you spend for their service. As you utilize cloud-based services more and more, you don't have to lose sight or control of your spend. You can stay agile, streamline your costs, and optimize your performance, plus save significant money with Cloud Optimizer.
Make the cloud work for you with Cloud Optimizer. Get a free assessment and find out how much you can save by going to cloudoptimizer.com. Go to cloudoptimizer.com for your free assessment. That's cloudoptimizer.com.